guys, Brian here from Thumper Fab. Today I'm going to walk you through installing our new bumper on your Defender HD11. For the first step, we're going to go ahead and start our bumper assembly process. I'm going to do that by mounting all our accent panels to our wings and our main bumper shell. To mount the accent panels, you're going to use your 1/4 inch button head screws and your thin 1/4 inch nylon lock nuts. We'll go ahead and get all these started. They'll fasten on the inside of the part. So you'll simply lay it into position. Feed the button head through the bumper and the panel and cap it off with your nylon lock nut. We'll go ahead and mount our accent panels to our wings first and then our main bumper shell. Then we'll continue the assembly process. With your 4 fasteners started to mount your wing accent panel, you can go ahead and tighten them up using a 5/32 Allen wrench and a 7/16 box wrench. We'll go ahead and repeat the same process for the other wing. Then we'll move on to our center section of our bumper and I'll walk you through the install of those accent panels. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and mount our large accent panel to our center bumper shell. Now, depending on the configuration of your bumper and how you plan to set it up, you'll either want to remove or not remove this fair lead knockout panel shown here. I'll show you how to remove it. We'll use some dikes and file down the burrs left from the panel. On this installation, we're going to leave the winch in the OEM position so we can leave this knockout in place. But if you plan on mounting a Warn or other winch inside the bumper body, you would have to remove this knockout and mount your fair lead in this position. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and mount our center accent panel to our main shell of our bumper. Like I said before, we're going to be reusing the OEM winch, so we're going to leave our fair lead knockout in place. Provides a nice pattern and a nice appearance. I'll simply insert it in the back of the bumper body and line it up with the holes as you can see here. We're going to use our same 1/4 inch hardware and our thin nylon lock nuts to get it all tightened down. Then we'll move on to the next step. With your center accent panel tight and installed, we'll go ahead and install our remaining accent panels. These here go on the underside of the bumper. To the sides, you'll simply slide them in position. Once you have both these accent panels in position, you'll come in and install your logo plate backing. For people that select a custom option, this panel is customizable in terms of color. It'll look really good with the TF and your custom color behind it. We've gone ahead and tightened up our lower accent panels. Just a reminder, you'll want to place the 2 patterned accent panels in place first before you place your logo cover plate behind it. You'll use all the same fasteners to mount the accent panels. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and mount our wings and our bull bar to the bumper before we move on to mounting our light on the inside of the bumper body and finally mounting it on the vehicle. For the next step, we'll go ahead and mount our wings to our main bumper body. We're going to use the M8 hardware that's provided in your hardware kit. You'll use M8 by 20mm flange head bolts and your M8 flange nylon lock nuts. You'll simply slide the wing into position and feed the bolts through from the center of the bumper body through the wing. Made to lift up on it a little bit. We'll go ahead and get that capped off with our nylon lock nut. Once you have all 4 bolts started, you can go ahead and tighten them up and repeat the procedure for the other bumper wing. You'll loosely snug up your bolts for the wings. You don't want to fully tighten them down yet until we mount the bull bar. Once you have both wings on, I'll walk you through mounting the bull bar to the bumper. Once we have the bull bar mounted, we can go ahead and tighten everything up, move on to getting ready to put it on the vehicle. With our wings loosely fastened to the main bumper body, we can move on to mounting our bull bar to the wings of the bumper. We'll use our M6 hardware and M6 flange lock nut. You'll simply hold it in position on one side and feed the bolt through the bumper. We'll cap it off with our nylon lock nut on the inside. With your bull bar fully tightened down, we can return and tighten our wings up. We'll use a 13mm socket and a 13mm wrench. Once we get that all tight, we'll go ahead and mount our light. We'll be ready to mount it on the vehicle. With our bumper all tightened up, we're going to go ahead and mount our light bar to the inside of the bumper. We decided to go with the light option on this bumper. You'll use the brackets that are supplied in the light bar box along with the hardware and tools to get it all mounted up. You'll want to tighten it roughly where you think you'd like the light bar to be adjusted. Mount the bracket on the other side. And then we're ready to mount the light bar to the bumper. With our bumper fully assembled, we'll go and move on to prepping the vehicle to mount our bumper. The first thing we're going to do is remove this grill to gain access to the upper mounts where our bumper will be tied in. We're also going to have to remove a portion of the under hood plastics so that we'll have access to the back side of our fastener in front of the radiator. With our grill removed, we're able to slide in our inner tube spacers. These will go on this upper mount hole on the inside of the frame. You'll be able to push them all the way through and seat them flush against this base of the spacer. Once you have your spacers in place, you're able to reinstall the grill and move on to the next step. For the next step, we're going to remove our battery cover here, as well as this cabin air filter. You'll simply pop it out of position and disconnect it from the ducting for your AC system. Next, we're going to remove the fasteners and our push pin rivets, and this will allow us to remove and pull up this plastic panel that's sitting under the hood to get access to our fasteners on the front of the bumper. I've went ahead and removed the T30 Torx fasteners on the inside of this underhood tray. For the next step, we'll use our screwdriver and pop out our plastic rivets so that we can pull the fenders out of the way and remove this inner hood panel so that we can gain access to the back side of our bumper mounting fasteners. I've went ahead and disconnected the hose that feeds our windshield wiper fluid tank. You can simply slide the hose clamp apart and disconnect it from your reservoir. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and remove our underhood plastic panel. You'll have to simply lift up and pull the hood out from under. You can remove the whole assembly or slide it just out of the way enough so that we have access to the back side of our fasteners that'll mount the bumper in front of the radiator. For our next step, we'll take our long M8 hex cap screw and flat washer and slide it through the upper mount holes of the bumper. With your hex cap screws slid through the upper mount holes of the bumper, you can slide your short aluminum spacer over the bolts and we'll be ready to set the bumper up on the vehicle. With our upper bolts and spacers in position, we're ready to set the bumper on the vehicle. You'll slide your upper mount bolts through the holes where we placed our spacers in the previous step. Once you have your bolts through the holes, we can cap them off with a nylon lock nut on the inside. With your bolts slid through the frame and our spacers, you can cap them off with a lock nut on the inside of the vehicle. You'll want to just snug them up in this step until we get our lower mounting bolts started and tightened up. Then we can return to tighten our upper mounting hardware. With your upper mount bolts started, you can fasten your two lower mount bolts. We'll use our M8 by 20mm flange head bolt. We'll slide it through the bumper body and through the frame of the vehicle. We'll cap it off with our flange lock nut on the back side. Tighten these up, and we'll be able to tighten up our upper mounting bolts. Finally, we'll move on to wiring. With your lower mounting bolts tight, you can return and tighten up your upper mounting bolts. I'm gonna use a socket with a swivel and our 13mm wrench on the inside. Once we get that on our nut, we can go ahead and tighten everything up. We'll move on to wiring up the light bar. Here we have the harness laid out for our front bumper light bar. You'll have your Deutsch connectors, which you'll only use one of, your ring terminals that'll go to your bus bar, along with your inline fuse, your relay for the harness, as well as our front light switch. Here we have the leads to the switch laid out as they'll be wired up in the vehicle. You'll have black on the top terminal of the switch, white on the middle terminal, and blue on the bottom terminal. We'll go ahead and gain access to the bus bar and begin routing our harness before we get everything hooked up and tested. To gain access to our bus bar that's located under the center of our top dash panel, we're going to have to remove the plastic portions of our A-pillar, as well as disconnect the strut assemblies that attach the windshield to the frame that operate the windshield when it's opened up. Once we have this all disconnected, we can remove the Torx fasteners that are on top of our upper dash panel. Once we have that loose, we can flip it up and we'll have access to our bus bar. With our windshield struts disconnected, we can go ahead and move forward with removing the T30 Torx fasteners at the top of our plastic A-pillars, followed by removing the push pins that hold the remainder of our plastic panel on before we move on to the top of the dash. With the main portion of your A-pillar plastic panel out of the way, you'll go ahead and remove this portion on the lower section. You'll simply pop it out of place. As you can see here on the back, there are some clips that hold it in place to the main portion of your dash. Once we get that out of the way, we can repeat the process on the passenger side before loosening up our T30 Torx screws that hold the whole top panel to the dash. With your A-pillar plastics removed from both the driver and the passenger side, you'll take your T30 Torx and remove the perimeter screws. You'll have 6 perimeter screws that'll be T30. Once you have all 6 of those removed, you can pop the dash up and it'll flip up and give you access to the bus bar located underneath this panel. With all 6 of our T30 perimeter screws removed, you can simply pop the upper dash panel up, and this will give us access to our bus bar that's located directly under this center section. Here you can see our red and our black terminal that make up our bus bar. We'll connect the red lead from our harness to the red terminal and the black lead from our harness to the black terminal. You'll use an M6 flanged nylon lock nut to connect the leads to our bus bar. These will have key on power, so whenever you have the key on and the switch on, our rear lights in our bumper will be turned on. With our harness connected to our bus bar and our leads connected to our switch in the order black, white, and blue, the only thing left to do is connect our Deutsch connector to the light bar and insert our switch in the dash. You'll simply backfeed the excess slack you have and slide it in the position in the dash and snap it in place. With our harness connected to our bus bar and our leads connected correctly to our switch, the only thing left to do is plug in our Deutsch connector to the female Deutsch connector provided on the light bar. Once we have that plugged in, our wiring harness will have power when the key is in the on position. We'll go ahead and turn the ignition and we can test the light bar out. After that, we can reinstall our underhood plastics, our hood, get everything buttoned up, and we're ready to hit the trails and enjoy our new Thumper Fab HD11 front bumper.